Daniel works as a remote operations manager for a logistics software company. He earns exactly $80,000 per year. For 3 years, he lived in a one-bedroom apartment with a fixed rent of $1,400. His monthly take-home pay after taxes averaged $5,200. He consistently saved $1,000 per month during those 3 years. His routine was stable and his spending patterns were predictable. Then, his company expanded its remote policy. Daniel began attending virtual strategy meetings with colleagues based in London, New York, and Singapore. These colleagues held the same job title as Daniel. They frequently mentioned their downtown apartments, their home office renovations, and their premium gym memberships. Daniel noticed a pattern in his own thinking during these calls. He started comparing his physical environment to theirs. He felt an immediate pull to align his physical environment with theirs. This emotional reaction was quick and entirely automatic. He justified this desire by telling himself he had earned the right to live at the same standard as his global peers. He calculated that he could redirect his $1,000 monthly savings into a $3,000 monthly lifestyle upgrade. He would upgrade to a $2,400 apartment, join a premium co-working space, and buy better furniture. He convinced himself that this upgrade was a professional investment. The decision trigger was not a financial calculation, but a social comparison. He chose to spend the $3,000 every month. Within 6 months, his savings rate dropped to zero. His new apartment required a longer lease commitment. His co-working membership auto-renewed annually. His spending level locked into a new, higher baseline. The habit of spending $3,000 monthly became his new normal. He stopped tracking his savings because there was nothing left to track. The immediate reward of fitting in with his peers overshadowed any delayed reflection on his future financial position. He felt like an equal among his colleagues. His bank account, however, began telling a different story.
If we analyze Daniel's situation from a practical perspective, we notice a repeated behavioral pattern. The pattern is adjusting outward spending to match the observed spending of a reference group. This behavior relies on a self-justification that equates professional equality with lifestyle equality. It treats income as a permission slip for consumption rather than a resource for building financial independence. Think of Daniel's income like fuel entering an engine. The engine is designed to run for a specific distance, which represents his working years. Every dollar he saves is fuel stored in the tank for the journey ahead. Every dollar he spends on lifestyle upgrades is fuel escaping from a leak in the system. The leak is small at first, just $3,000 a month, but the leak is constant and it operates every single month without fail. Over 1 year, $36,000 escapes from the tank. Over 5 years, $180,000 is gone. The engine burns the fuel as fast as it arrives. The distance the engine can travel does not increase. In fact, the required distance increases because the lifestyle upgrade creates new, permanent costs. Daniel did not make a single catastrophic financial mistake. He simply repeated a decision to spend $3,000 36 times over 3 years. Each individual decision felt minor in the moment. Each decision was justified by the presence of peers' behavior. The emotional comfort of matching his peers provided immediate relief. The logical reflection on what that $3,000 could have built was delayed indefinitely. He never sat down to calculate the long-term cost of this new habit loop. The habit loop worked like this. He saw a peer's upgraded space, he felt inadequate, he spent money to fix the feeling, and he felt temporary relief. This cycle repeated weekly in smaller ways, culminating in the monthly $3,000 drain.
Let us look at the measurable difference between two paths. Path A is Daniel's chosen route, spending the $3,000 on lifestyle upgrades. Path B is the alternative route, directing that same $3,000 into a diversified portfolio of productive assets. Both paths start with the same $80,000 income. Both paths involve the same amount of effort and work output from Daniel. On Path A, the $3,000 buys a better view, a nicer desk, and a sense of belonging. These items depreciate in value the moment they are acquired. The apartment lease expires, but the obligation to keep paying for a similar lifestyle remains. On Path B, the $3,000 is invested into companies that produce goods and services. That $3,000 begins generating its own small returns in the first month. By month 12, Path B has accumulated $36,000 in capital, plus a measurable amount of growth. By year 3, Path B has accumulated $108,000 in principal alone. The behavioral mistake on Path A is assuming that the absence of savings is a neutral outcome. The absence of savings is not neutral. It is an active accumulation of lost time. Every month Daniel spends the $3,000, he is not just losing the money, he is losing the 50 months of future financial independence that money could have purchased. People often justify lifestyle spending by claiming they will save later, when their income is higher. This self-justification ignores the reality that spending habits scale up faster than income does. The emotional reaction to a higher future income will be the same as the reaction to the current income. The desire to match peers will simply target a more expensive peer group. The predictable result is a permanent delay in financial independence.
At this point, we need to re-examine a very common financial belief. The belief is that a higher income naturally leads to faster wealth building. This belief fails logically because it confuses the potential to build wealth with the actual behavior of building wealth. Income is merely the rate at which value is exchanged for labor. Wealth is the accumulated storage of that value when it is not consumed. Increasing income does not guarantee any accumulation if the spending behavior increases at the same rate. The logical failure is expecting a different result from the same behavioral pattern. Daniel increased his lifestyle spending to match his peer group exactly because his income allowed it. The measurable outcome was zero new wealth created, despite a highly productive work output. To replace this flawed belief, we must look at observable behavior connected to real-world effort. Financial independence is not achieved by reaching a certain income level. It is achieved by consistently directing a portion of that income into productive assets over time. Think of wealth building like carrying water in a container from a well to a reservoir. Your daily work is the trip to the well, and your income is the water you bring back. If your container is cracked, the water leaks out on the walk home. The size of the bucket represents your income. A larger bucket with a larger crack still delivers no water to the reservoir. The crack in the container is the habit of adjusting lifestyle to match peer observation. Patching the crack requires a behavioral shift, not a larger bucket. It requires the discipline to keep the water in the container regardless of how much others are pouring out. The accumulation in the reservoir depends entirely on how much water arrives, not how much was drawn.
Let us return to the measurable consequence of Daniel's $3,000 choice. If Daniel had taken path B and invested the $3,000 monthly, we can calculate the exact outcome. Assuming a historical average annual return of 7% from productive assets, his money would compound. After 10 years, he would have invested $360,000 of his own labor. The compounded growth would have added approximately $144,000 to that total. His portfolio would be worth over $500,000. At a standard 4% withdrawal rate, that portfolio could generate $20,000 per year in passive income. That $20,000 covers a significant portion of his baseline living expenses. This means his required working years shrink measurably. Now, apply this to the 15-year delay. By spending the $3,000 on path A, Daniel accumulates no productive assets. After 10 years, his net worth from this income stream remains at zero. He must continue working to fund the $3,000 lifestyle indefinitely. To reach the same $500,000 portfolio, he would need to work an additional 15 years beyond the Path B timeline. The 15-year delay is not an estimate, it is a mathematical result of the compounding he missed. The self-justification for the lifestyle upgrade cost him 15 years of time. Every time he saw a peer's upgraded apartment, he chose an immediate emotional reaction. He chose the feeling of belonging over the delayed logic of independence. The habit of spending $3,000 monthly repeated 120 times over a decade. The outcome of that repeated action became entirely predictable. The gap between his perceived success and his actual financial position widened every month. He looked like his peers, but his financial system operated in the exact opposite direction. His peers may have had higher incomes to support their lifestyles, or they may have been making the exact same behavioral mistake. Daniel assumed his peers were financially stable because their spending was visible. He never observed their savings accounts or their investment portfolios. He patterned his behavior after incomplete information. This is the core of the internal decision conflict. The conflict is between the immediate desire for social alignment and the delayed reward of financial autonomy. The social alignment requires a continuous outflow of capital. The financial autonomy requires a continuous redirection of capital into productive systems. The measurable consequence of choosing social alignment is a longer mandatory working life. The behavioral tendency to justify lifestyle spending as a professional necessity accelerates this delay. People tell themselves that a better apartment makes them more productive. They tell themselves that premium services save them time, which they then use to work more. But the measurable outcome shows that the extra work does not translate into saved capital. The extra work simply funds the ongoing lifestyle maintenance. The habit loop reinforces itself until the lifestyle becomes a fixed cost. Fixed costs require fixed income, which requires continuous labor. Breaking this loop requires interrupting the emotional reaction to peer observation. It requires looking at a colleague's upgraded living space and consciously acknowledging the cost of that upgrade. The cost is not just the $3,000 per month. The cost is the 15 additional years of labor required to replace that capital. The logical reflection reveals that financial independence is simply the accumulation of enough productive assets to cover baseline expenses. Every dollar spent on aligning with a reference group is a dollar that does not go toward that accumulation. The system of wealth building is fundamentally a system of retention. The behavior of retention is the habit of keeping the fuel in the engine. The predictable result of retention is a shrinking timeline to independence. The predictable result of continuous lifestyle alignment is an expanding timeline of mandatory work. Replace the habit of matching peer spending with the habit of matching your past spending. Calculate the exact monthly amount you currently save and increase it by 5%. Financial independence is the measurable distance between your baseline needs and your accumulated productive assets.